Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and it's raining in New York City right now. Today we're on our way to AMC theaters in Midtown to watch Disney's Cruella. So the rain's not gonna stop us. And later in the video, we're gonna give you guys a spoiler review. Don't forget to give this video a like, share and subscribe. And please support me in my GoFundMe campaign down in the description below. And hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Hi guys, so as usual, before we stop by the movie theater, we're gonna eat some Jollibee because I'm hungry. It's raining in New York City right now, so we're gonna have to expand, make do of what we have. I only ordered like regular chicken sandwich and spicy chicken sandwich. Like I wanted to order more, but it's raining and like I had to carry a lot of things. Spicy chicken sandwich from Jollibee. That spicy chicken sandwich from Jollibee. Look, somebody's proposing, you guys. It's right there. The guy just proposed it. Somebody proposed in Bryant Park and we're lucky to like witness it. There you go guys, they're celebrating. So we're gonna try this guys. A little bit high. There's the lucky couple. And she said yes, people. So this is the guy who proposed, and she said yes. Congratulations to you guys. Hopefully you guys have a good life together.
Thank you so much.
That's why. So we just finished watching Disney's Cruella and it's amazing. It is awesome. And we're gonna give you guys a spoiler review in a few, okay? Hi guys, so we are back in our apartment to review Cruella. But before we jump into the spoiler review, we would like to say congratulations to Hassan and Raja. And to be honest with you, we don't know them personally, but we are lucky enough to witness this new chapter in their life, because we just witnessed Hassan propose to Raja. And like, since we're talking about like movie, and like if we're gonna turn their life story into like a movie, who do you think should play their character? For you guys who are watching it, just feel free to like comment down below, or for Raja and Hassan's friend, like let us, or feel free to comment down below on who should play their character if we're gonna turn their love story into like a movie. So congratulations to your wedding guys. I hope you guys the best. And now on to the spoiler review for Cruella. So here's what I think about the movie. I enjoy it. Like, well, I was expecting it to be rated R like Joker.
It was Disney. It was never going to be rated R.
Well, yeah, we know that. But like a lot of people are gonna complain because I was reading online, like they wanted her to be like really bad, like unrelatably bad. But like in this movie, like she's bad in a good way. Like I understand like her motives, her motivation in life, why she wanted to do things, and I understand like where this psychopathic behavior comes from.
Yeah, I would start there. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to, say, like Joker with this movie. Even with the first trailer, there was a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, they're joking.
But you can also compare it to Maleficent, which Disney did before. And to the point of what you were saying, where I guess some people are saying that she's not a big enough villain. I think I don't remember so much of the live action 101 Dalmatians. It's been so long since I've even seen it. But for what I remember of just like the animated, Cruella is a villain, yes, but she's not as big a villain as some of the other Disney villains.
She's not a magical being, if I should say.
Well, not magical, but she's not as villainous. You know, sure, she wants to kill some puppies, which is bad, but it's not like she's a homicidal maniac from the very beginning of the movie. And in the movie 101 Dalmatians, she gets more and more unhinged throughout the film. And so this, as being a origin story for her character, I wasn't necessarily disappointed that she wasn't at the full end of the movie at the place where she is at the end of 101 Dalmatians, because it's obviously like I can see this character becoming that character later on, because even though she doesn't really go in some ways full on villain, she's certainly not really a good guy at the end of this movie. You can't really say she's the good guy.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't end up killing the Baroness, she certainly doesn't she doesn't do things in the heroic way, you could say.
But yeah, because a lot of people online are saying, "Oh, I can see the Joker wears Prada" or something like that. But yeah, this is Disney. I wish it was rated R, and like I want to see her like killing people.
Really,
like,
I don't think making it rated R would make this film better.
But still, it works. Even though it's PG-13, it works. But yeah, I understand like why she acts the way she does, and I finally understand like where she get all her fortune. And now we understand how basically at the beginning of the movie, like she become poor, and like because of that, like she learned skills, like what poverty and like hard life brings you. Like she learned things to do things basically the hard way. Like she learned. I appreciate the fact that she's a hardworking person as well, and like her, not just, how do you call that thing again?
I don't know what you're...
Basically, she hustles. And I appreciate that because like living in New York, like you learn how to hustle just to survive. And like because of poverty, like she learned how to do things. And she survived on her own and being independent and all of that.
I also really enjoyed the movie. I didn't really go in with that big of expectations. What about you? Like going into the movie, did you have like big expectations for this movie, or were you just kind of just going in to see it? I mean, usually I just go in without that big of expectations.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see the movie because I wanted to get to know who she is, and like feel like I wanted to like relate to her, because a lot of people are saying online like, oh, I wanted her to be like really bad, like, but that's the thing, like I wanted her to be relatable at the same time as well.
I would say the biggest draws for me going into this movie was the performance from Emma Stone and the setting, sort of putting it into 70s London. And that's where a lot of the comparisons to Joker come from, because Joker was obviously set in this sort of like 70s New York City, and this is 70s London. So there's a lot of visual similarities there that I don't think are necessarily... I mean, obviously they shot this, I think, before Joker was released. So they didn't really plan that. It just came from the kind of movies that they were riffing off of. I mean, Joker was riffing obviously from like Taxi Driver, just like this was ripping off of, I don't know necessarily Taxi Driver, but like 70s London. And I'm sure there's some famous movies set in 70s London, but I just don't necessarily know what they are.
And it turns out like her hair, her signature hairstyle, like she's born with it.
Yeah, how did you feel about that? I kind of understand why they did that later in the movie, but like just seeing it right at the beginning, it was a little bit of an eye roll moment that, of course, the villain Cruella DeVille with, you know, the signature black on one side and white on the other side had to be born that way.
Yeah.
Really, I have to wonder if that was the plan from the beginning, or they did that just so later on in the film where Mark Strong's character, the butler sort of guy, knows who she is. And the way he and then Baroness knows who she is because of the hair.
Yeah. But
it was a little bit you kind of roll your eyes at first, like, really? She was born with that look? Mm-hmm. It's not just especially you would think that it's just some sort of fashion statement of the character rather than being born that way. But
she owns
it's just a small note in the movie, and it doesn't really distract too much from it, but you kind of have to accept it and just roll with... If you get hung up on that in this movie, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you get hung up on that sort of thing in movies, there's probably a lot of movies you don't enjoy, because it's kind of a movie logic thing that you have to accept and go with.
And you know the funny thing as well, because like when she was younger, she was being bullied a lot as well. But the crazy thing is like she fights back, which is awesome as well. Like she's not completely helpless, but I understand like why some of her anger is coming from, because she was being bullied as well.
How did you feel about the portrayal of the character of Cruella?
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought she did a really good job. Mm-hmm. I really liked Emma Stone's performance in this movie, and I especially like the parts later on because she sort of develops the persona of Cruella. So the character her real name is Estella, and they do refer to the Cruella as a nickname early on in the film, but she basically develops it as a persona. And it was interesting too that they did a really good job developing the relationships between Estella / Cruella and, let me just check on what her sidekicks' names were. Jasper and Horace.
Yeah.
So I think they really developed that quite well, and just this idea of her developing this sort of villainous persona of Cruella. And that at no point are we really led to believe that Cruella as a personality is good or is going to be the good guy in all of this.
Yeah. And here's the thing, they're able to like put diversity in a good way in this movie, which is something I like. That's why they're able to like put a mixed person, a black person, a gay person in the story, and it doesn't feel forced, which is something I like. They need to make movies like this, more movies like this. And the reason why she's successful in life because she's friends with all of these people, and they help her out in a way.
Speaking of characters, how did you feel about Anita and George? So
the lawyer and
George the lawyer and Anita. If you didn't figure it out by the end of the movie, they reveal that those are the characters from 101 Dalmatians. George gets Pongo and Anita gets, what's the girl? Perdita. They're the characters from 101 Dalmatians. Did you realize that during the movie, or at what point did you realize?
Well, I know like it has something to do with like because it's the prequel story for like the 101 Dalmatian. That's why. But when I see like the puppies, like I know there's for the future movie.
Yeah.
Or for the original movie.
I didn't realize it at first when I was first watching. I think I realized about like halfway through. So I think in the original cartoon, Cruella refers to Anita being her schoolmate or something like that.
Yeah.
So they did introduce Anita as a character early on in the film. It just didn't really register. And I think it was later on when she first talks to Anita as Cruella that I realized it, because she says Anita darling, and that's what she calls her. And I can't remember if that was literally their last name. I think it might have been in the cartoon. It's been a while. But that was around the point. And then I realized later when the like third or fourth scene George was in, that was George.
Yeah.
It took me a while, because before that, okay, George, he's the lawyer character. And I had been thinking about like some of the characters. Oh, I wonder if that is somebody later on, because it's been a while since I've seen the cartoon or the live action version. I don't remember all of the side characters. But I think, I realized about like halfway through, oh, that's George and that's Anita from 101 Dalmatians. How did you feel about the dogs? So I one thing I'm not sure of, I haven't looked up any back, like behind the scenes things, or like how much the dogs was real and how much was CGI, because I'm pretty sure there had to be some CGI involved.
Well, I saw that dog jumping from the rooftop. That's CGI.
Yeah, I feel like especially the Dalmatians, it just, a lot of the times the Dalmatians did not quite look real.
Yeah.
I don't know how much was CGI, but I feel like there was a fair amount of CGI involved with the Dalmatians, especially them being very aggressive, and I don't know, just the way their movement was, it just seemed a little quite not real, like they weren't really there. Yeah. Probably because they didn't want to deal with like trying to get the dogs to act aggressive but not be dangerous at the same time.
And here's the thing, I finally understand like why she have like this love and hate relationship with Dalmatians, because they're able to like put their story in her story. Because basically in this movie, like the Dalmatians killed her mother from the beginning, few years of her life, the early years of her life, and then basically it marks her. And then it turns out that her real mother is the Baroness, the villain in the movie, which is a psychopath. And now I understand why the psychopathic behavior comes from her mother. And her mother owns the Dalmatians.
That's why. And she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother because her mother tried to kill her. In a way. But yeah, they're able to like put the Dalmatian in the equation and like why she have. I'm not gonna say she hates the Dalmatians, but I'm not gonna say she loves them at the same time. It's a big part of her history. That's why.
So how did you feel about the twist? So the twist being that the Baroness turns out to be
her mother,
her biological mother, because she was obviously raised by someone else, and you find out that the Baroness basically gave birth and then gave it to Mark Strong's character, like the butler, and said, you take care of this, which she obviously meant take care of, but he decided to give it to this woman who was the woman who raised her, and then who then later got murdered by the Baroness when she came asking for money.
Yeah, the right question is like, why does her mother wanted to kill her though to begin with? Do you think?
She didn't want kids. It was basically something along those lines.
Because I feel like, I'm assuming like I'm not gonna say she's poor. She's not as wealthy. It's the father who's wealthy, and she wanted the money for herself, the money and the power for herself. And like as we all know, like the kid is gonna inherit all the fortune.
Yeah, I think it was mostly she just didn't want a kid.
She's being selfish. Like
yeah.
And like that's one of the reasons why like Cruella acts the way she does, because basically your own mother tried to kill you. Like how would you react about that? And yeah, the struggle in growing up poor, like you had to hustle just to survive, and like she learned how to do things. She steal things so she can eat, which is I'm not gonna say I agree with, but I understand why she do the things she do. That's why. And it turns out she is really wealthy, because like I've been reading online, like she's poor, and then on the other story like she's really wealthy, and like now we know because she's an heiress to this vast fortune.
So how did you feel about the fashion in this movie?
It was really good though.
It's not something I really pay attention to, but there was a lot of fashion. You know, it feels very much like a take on The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
But in the 70s and with the character of Cruella.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically what it is. How did you feel about the look of the movie? I quite liked it. It had a unique look of its own.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people made, like, your first thing on just looking at the trailer is to compare it to Joker, but I think it has its own distinct look.
And it stands on its own.
It's not... I feel like Joker with, like, 70s New York is dirtier.
Yeah.
It's got this, like, dirtier feel to it, especially, like, New York City compared to London. It's just dirtier. And then with 70s London, it's more of... Cruella sort of represents this punk rock... I think, you know, from like different media I've seen of that time period, you had this sort of rising punk rock coming up in London, and that was a scene there. And so I feel like that was their inspiration for this take on Cruella. That's sort of what her origins are as a fashion designer, you know, compared to the Baroness, who's she's been a big name fashion designer for years, and she's sort of this young up and coming, and they sort of tie that in with the punk rock scene. So this movie is out in theaters currently, but it is also available on Disney Plus with Premier Access. So I guess the question is, what's your recommendation for people? Like, should they watch it, and how should they watch it? Should they go see it in theaters or Disney Plus?
Well, the movie theaters are opening up, which is good. So I prefer like watching it in the movie theater, because it's different when you watch it in the movie theater. Like the sound, like the screen, and it's an experience. Like, yeah, we can watch it in Disney Plus, but it's different when you watch it in the movie theater. Like you can feel your focus
Yeah,
watching it.
That's one thing where I usually prefer watching things in movie theaters because you're much more focused. You're not on your phone. You're not paying attention to other things. I would say I definitely recommend seeing it in the movie theater. I wouldn't say it's a must-see in the movie theater. If obviously if you can't, if the movie theaters are closed around you, I'd say it's not something you have to wait for. But at the same time, the Disney Plus Premier Access also costs money. You know, it's not free.
Which is, how much is it? $30?
$30 US dollars.
Well, shout out to AMC theaters, because here's the thing. We are AMC stub members, and we bought the ticket, and well, we got 2 tickets, and we used some of our points, and it turns out like our movie ticket is cheaper than the Premier Access, which is awesome.
Yeah, well,
which
for,
is
for
awesome.
most places, 2 tickets to a movie is cheaper than $30.
Yeah,
It's like usually sometimes we see the movies in Dolby or IMAX or the AMC Prime, which actually works out to more than $30 just because it's New York City, and you're talking about the AMC we go to is in Midtown, so it's the more pricier tickets.
and it turns out like this movie is not available in Dolby in this movie theater, so okay, let's watch the regular cinema, which is good.
And then we also had points just from AMC, so we were able to get our concessions for free.
Yes, so everything, it's cheaper than the Premier Access. That's why I'm offering shout out to AMC. I'm offering like you guys should go to the movie theaters.
You want to wait, you know it's going to come to Disney Plus for the regular price in like 3 months. Probably. That's the way they've been doing it so far. So I think it's worth seeing
in the movie theaters.
If you have it, like, especially if you have kids, like if you have 3 or 4 people and you just can't get out, Disney Plus, it's still fine. It's still worth a watch, you know. I don't know how, especially since this is like a Disney film, what would you recommend for age-wise? Because I don't see this as a little kids movie.
Well,
Not like 101 Dalmatians. Not necessarily because it's too dark. It is
like there are themes.
there's darker themes. I think a lot of that would go over kids' heads. I mean, I think the biggest thing is I think like kids younger than 10 are gonna just get bored by bits of this movie. They're just not gonna be as interested, especially if they're not interested in fashion. They're not. I feel like there's long stretches of this film that they are not going to be interested in what's happening.
Yeah, because there are things in this movie that the kids are not going to be able to relate to in a way. Like my best example is like, should I say like working hard, working just to survive. Why you do things the way you do because you want to survive. Because for kids, like it's all fun and games and all of that. But in here, like you understand why she steals, and like her desire to like move. Her desire to like work in this place to better her life and all of that, and she's willing to do things and she's willing to step on all kinds of people just to get what she wants, and which is something I appreciate a lot in this movie. For kids, they're not gonna get that, like why is she doing this and that, because you know, kids. But once they grew up, like, oh, I appreciate it more.
Yeah, and I think definitely where the character ends up at this end of this movie is not something a lot of kids are going to get, like little kids. I'm definitely reminded of my mom used to babysit this one kid, and the way he viewed movies, and probably the way a lot of kids view movies, is he really only had one question, like when it came to characters and to understand the plot. Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Yes.
And there's the thing with like, at the end of this movie, I would say she's not really, it's very ambiguous. She's not really a good guy or a bad guy. It's kind of very much a gray character in between, and she's going towards the bad side.
Yeah, she's the product of her environment.
And I feel like if you are a little kid, it's the ending, if you don't get a lot of the character stuff going on in the movie, it's very easy to look at this movie. It's like, okay, she's not the villain, she's a good guy at the end. Whereas like, kind of, but actually it's very ambiguous.
Yes.
And if you look at her character and the way it evolves through the movie, and her basically she is Cruella at the end of the movie, you know. You have that whole symbolic Estella is dead, right?
Yes.
And that's the whole point in the ending of the movie. She's killed off Estella. She is now Cruella. Cruella is not a good person. If you watch the movie, at no point does Cruella do good things. So I think criticizing this movie by saying she's not a big enough villain by the end of the film is like, well, kind of look at what she did as Cruella. At no point is Cruella doing anything good. She's not a full-on supervillain. She's not the same sort of villain at the end of like 101 Dalmatians when she's going crazy driving the car. But I think she's very much on that road to that. And it's not that hard to see her getting there in a few years or however long, you know, your timeline is between this end of this movie when George and Anita get the puppies. Not the 101 puppies, the just Pongo and Perdita as puppies, and then however many years that it's supposed to take place.
Yeah, basically a lot of things that happen to her is the product of her life story. I'm not saying she's supposed to do things like that, but I understand why she did that, because that's what happens to her. Like, probably if I'm in the same situation, like, I'm probably gonna end up doing the same thing. So I don't judge her in a way. I appreciate her more. So what do you guys think? Well, give us a comment down below on what do you guys think. And again, congratulations to Hassan and Raja. Have a good life together. And I wish you guys can support me on my GoFundMe campaign down in the description below. Give this video a like, a share, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to his channel.
I'm Jonny from Jonny Skywatcher. You can follow me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, I am currently on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. I am doing a podcast on Twitch, which you can find me at the same username, Jonny Skywatcher. And you can also feel free to follow me on Twitter at jskywatcher.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please be kind in the comment section. Bye.
Bye.